Wow, building on time? I've been wanting to try to build something for speed for a long time. Let's learn how to build a maze in Maizen Statue.
Round 1.
I begin by building the outer walls of the maze entirely from lime wool, shaping the structure so that it resembles my own Minecraft head. Designing a maze inside a recognizable object immediately makes the project more memorable, because players are not simply exploring a random collection of corridors, they are entering a giant character. This idea combines two different forms of creativity: sculpture and level design. Instead of treating the maze as a flat puzzle, I first create a large, three-dimensional shell that already tells a story before anyone even steps inside. Lime wool is the perfect choice because its bright color instantly matches my appearance and makes the giant statue easy to recognize from a great distance. In game design, using a familiar silhouette helps players understand what they are looking at within seconds, even before smaller details have been added. A strong outline is often considered more important than intricate decoration because people naturally recognize shapes before textures or colors. With the main walls standing, I move to the front of the statue and recreate my face using black and red wool. Character designers often reduce facial features to their simplest forms, so they remain recognizable even when viewed from far away. Minecraft itself is based on this principle, where just a handful of colored pixels can express an entire personality. By carefully placing the eyes and mouth, I make sure that anyone approaching the maze immediately knows whose head they are about to enter. Large statues often rely on contrast rather than complexity, and the dark facial features stand out clearly against the bright lime background. This balance prevents the design from becoming visually cluttered while still giving the structure plenty of personality. Rather than decorating every surface, I allow the recognizable face to become the focal point that defines the entire build. To finish the exterior, I install matching lime-colored doors on both the front and the back of the statue. Using separate entrance and exit points is a classic design technique found in many real-world attractions because it keeps visitor movement organized and prevents people from crossing paths unnecessarily. Theme parks, museums, and public exhibitions frequently guide guests along carefully planned routes to create a smoother experience. The maze follows the same philosophy. Entering through the front feels natural because players walk directly toward the face, while leaving through the rear gives them the satisfying feeling of successfully passing through the entire structure. Even this simple decision adds to the illusion that the giant head is more than just a statue. It becomes an interactive building designed specifically to be explored. With the exterior complete, I finally turn my attention to the maze itself by constructing the internal walls from the same lime wool. Rather than making the route overly confusing, I choose a layout that is enjoyable to explore without becoming frustrating. One of the biggest challenges in maze design is finding the right balance between difficulty and fun. If a maze is too simple, players solve it almost immediately and lose interest. If it is too complicated, they may stop enjoying the experience altogether. Professional game designers often describe this as maintaining a balanced difficulty curve, where players feel challenged but continue making steady progress. By creating several turns, intersections, and short dead ends without filling every corner with traps, I make the maze feel engaging while remaining accessible to players of different skill levels. A well-designed maze is not necessarily the largest one. It is the one that keeps players curious about what lies around the next corner. Once the route is finished, I raise every interior wall until it reaches the same height as the outer shell. This completely changes the feeling of exploration because players can no longer see over the partitions to locate the exit immediately. Height plays an important role in architectural design, influencing both visibility and the perception of space. Tall walls create a stronger sense of immersion by surrounding visitors and limiting what they can see, encouraging them to rely on memory and observation rather than simply looking across the maze. Many famous hedge mazes use this exact principle. allowing the walls themselves to become part of the challenge. By matching the height of the internal corridors with the exterior structure, I transform the statue from a decorative shell into a fully enclosed puzzle where every decision matters, making the journey through the giant Maizen head far more exciting than a simple open-air labyrinth. Whew, I barely made it on time. Great, my Maizen statue is ready.
Hello?
Hey, Carrie, look, I built it in just 5 minutes. Do you like?
Yay!
Really? I am very glad that you like my makeshift construction. Maybe then you can try to build the Maizen statue yourself in just 10 minutes?
Ta-da!
They ran to the place. This is where your building will be. Are you ready?
Yay!
Then go ahead.
Round 2.
Carrie begins by creating the foundation of her maze. But instead of choosing a simple rectangle, she shapes the entire layout like herself lying on the ground. Transforming the floor into a recognizable character is a clever example of combining architecture with pixel art. Many successful Minecraft megabuilds are memorable because they merge several different building styles into one project rather than focusing on only a single idea. Before players even enter the maze, they can already recognize its overall silhouette from above or from a distance. This makes the build feel like a giant sculpture and a playable puzzle at the same time. Designers often refer to this approach as giving a structure a strong identity, ensuring that its shape alone communicates what it represents without relying on signs or explanations. To form the outline, Carrie alternates white and red wool across the floor, recreating the colors that define her appearance. Color blocking is a common design technique used in architecture, fashion, and graphic design because large areas of contrasting colors remain easy to recognize even from far away. Instead of adding tiny decorative details immediately, she first establishes the biggest color regions, allowing the character to emerge naturally as the build grows. Minecraft builders frequently work this way because correcting large shapes early is much easier than redesigning a finished structure later. The floor itself becomes a giant canvas, proving that even horizontal surfaces can contribute to the storytelling instead of serving only as places to walk. Another advantage of planning the maze around a character-shaped foundation is that the body's proportions naturally influence the path that will later be built inside. The head provides room for wider sections, while the arms and legs create long, narrow spaces that are perfect for winding corridors. Architects often allow the purpose of a building to influence its floor plan, and Carrie applies a similar principle here. Rather than forcing a maze into a generic square, she lets the character's silhouette determine the available space. This makes every part of the maze feel intentional and gives players the impression that they are exploring the inside of a giant version of Carrie herself, rather than wandering through an ordinary labyrinth. With the floor completed, Carrie starts laying out the foundations of the maze's internal walls. Instead of placing corridors randomly, she carefully arranges each section so that every turn contributes to a single correct route leading through the puzzle. Designing a maze is surprisingly similar to designing a game level because the builder is constantly thinking about the player's experience rather than simply placing blocks. Every intersection presents a decision, and every dead end teaches players something about the overall layout. A successful maze encourages exploration while rewarding careful observation instead of relying entirely on luck. One of the most important design choices Carrie makes is ensuring that there is only one true solution. This type of maze is known as a perfect maze, meaning every location is connected without creating loops that offer multiple correct paths. Perfect mazes are popular because they feel fair. Players always know that a correct route exists, even if finding it takes patience. Puzzle designers often prefer this approach because it creates a satisfying balance between challenge and logic. Instead of wandering endlessly through repeated circles, players gradually eliminate wrong choices until they discover the exit. While organizing the interior, Carrie also creates 2 separate entrances and installs matching doors. Having multiple entrances changes how players approach the maze because it immediately raises the question of which doorway is the intended starting point. Real attractions often include carefully designed entrances that prepare visitors for the experience ahead, and Minecraft builds benefit from the same attention to detail. Doors also provide a natural visual transition between the outside world and the enclosed puzzle, making the maze feel like a complete architectural structure rather than a collection of walls placed on the ground. By planning the entrances at the same time as the corridors, Carrie ensures that the maze feels coherent from the very beginning. Experienced architects rarely treat entrances as an afterthought because they shape a visitor's first impression of the entire building. The same principle applies here. Instead of adding doors once the maze is finished, she integrates them into the layout itself, allowing the pathways to flow naturally from the entrance toward the final destination. This careful planning makes the puzzle easier to understand while preserving the excitement of discovering the one correct route. Once the entire layout has been planned, Carrie begins raising the outer walls by several blocks. Increasing the height completely changes how the maze feels because players are no longer exploring a pattern on the ground. They are surrounded by towering walls that limit their view in every direction. Architects often use height to influence the emotional atmosphere of a space. Taller walls create a stronger sense of enclosure and make even familiar environments feel mysterious. By building upward first around the perimeter, Carrie establishes a clear boundary that separates the maze from the outside world. After finishing the exterior, she repeats the same process with every internal wall until they match the surrounding structure. Keeping all the walls at a consistent height is important because uneven barriers would allow players to see across the maze and locate the correct route too easily. Real hedge mazes follow exactly the same principle, ensuring that every corridor provides a similar level of visibility and challenge. Consistency is one of the foundations of good design because it prevents certain areas from feeling unfinished or unintentionally easier than others. As the walls continue rising, the maze gradually transforms from a simple floor plan into a fully immersive environment. The higher partitions block long sightlines, encouraging players to rely on memory, observation, and logical thinking instead of looking over the walls. This is one of the reasons large mazes remain engaging despite having relatively simple construction techniques. By carefully controlling what players can and cannot see, Carrie creates suspense throughout the entire journey, proving that thoughtful spatial design is often more important than adding complicated decorative details. To To complete the build, Carrie decorates the head section by recreating her own face using wool. White wool forms most of the face, while black wool defines the eyes and mouth, and light gray wool shapes the ears. Character design often relies on a handful of distinctive features that remain recognizable even when viewed from a great distance. Minecraft's blocky style is perfect for this approach because every color contrast immediately stands out against the surrounding surface. Placing the face in the correct position also helps players understand the orientation of the giant character from above, making the entire maze easier to recognize without reducing the challenge waiting inside. With this final detail, the project becomes much more than a maze. It turns into a giant artistic tribute to Carrie, blending sculpture, architecture, and puzzle design into one memorable Minecraft creation.
Where did everyone run off to? Hey, guys, what's all that noise?
Carrie and I are building the Maizen statue on time, JJ. Who did it better?
Oh, both of your buildings look great, but I think it's up to the audience to decide who did the best.
Yes, JJ, you're right. Maybe then you have comments on the construction of Carrie?
No, her maze is very similar to herself. It's a perfect performance.
Maybe then you'll build your Maizen statue in 15 minutes.
Okay, then let's run to the place.
JJ, good luck to you. We'll wait in the house.
But?
Thanks, guys. Then I'm starting. Round 3. Using a command, I instantly generate a gigantic statue of myself across the ground. Rather than building it block by block, I take advantage of a structure that I prepared earlier, allowing me to focus my time on refining and improving the design instead of repeating work I have already completed. Professional architects and engineers frequently reuse successful designs as a foundation for future projects, adapting them instead of starting from nothing every time. Minecraft builders follow the same philosophy by creating templates and blueprints that can be modified for completely different purposes. The enormous statue immediately becomes the centerpiece of the landscape, and because it represents a familiar character instead of a simple geometric shape, players can recognize it from an incredible distance. Starting with such a massive sculpture also demonstrates how planning ahead allows builders to create projects that would otherwise require many hours of repetitive construction. Although the statue already looks complete from the outside, it cannot become a maze until the interior is prepared. Using commands whenever possible and manual building where precision is required, I remove the upper layer of blocks across the structure. This process is similar to site preparation in real construction, where workers first clear and reshape the area before any internal work begins. Preparing a building site may not be the most exciting stage, but it is one of the most important because every later decision depends on having a clean and well-organized foundation. By opening the statue from above, I gain full visibility of the interior, making it much easier to design a maze with accurate proportions instead of trying to work through narrow openings. During the excavation, I noticed that a few unwanted blocks have appeared inside the statue, including parts of nearby trees that were copied together with the terrain. This is one of the small challenges that builders often face when using large editing commands. Automated tools are incredibly powerful, but they cannot always distinguish between intended details and objects that happen to be standing in the area at the time. Rather than leaving those mistakes hidden inside, I carefully remove every unnecessary block by hand. This combination of automation and manual correction is common in both Minecraft and real construction. Machines handle the largest tasks efficiently, while careful human inspection ensures the finished project reaches a much higher standard of quality. Taking the time to clean the interior now prevents countless problems later when the maze begins to take shape. With the interior completely cleared, I begin filling the statue with the maze itself by generating walls made entirely from leaves. Choosing leaves instead of solid blocks immediately changes the atmosphere of the build. while stone or concrete often create the feeling of a fortress. Leaves make the maze resemble the famous hedge mazes found in historic gardens around the world. Landscape architects have used living hedges for centuries because they combine architecture with nature, creating spaces that feel both structured and organic. Minecraft leaves capture that same appearance surprisingly well, giving the corridors a softer and more natural character despite being arranged in carefully planned patterns. Using commands allows the maze to grow at an incredible speed, but the overall layout still requires careful planning. A successful maze is never simply a collection of random corridors. Every intersection, dead end, and turn is placed intentionally to influence the player's decisions and sense of direction. Level designers often think about how curiosity drives exploration, encouraging players to continue moving even after making several wrong turns. By generating the leafy corridors inside such a gigantic statue, I combine environmental storytelling with puzzle design. Instead of exploring an ordinary hedge maze in a garden, players will soon find themselves navigating through the inside of a colossal version of my own character, making the experience far more memorable than a traditional labyrinth. As the maze continues to spread through the enormous statue, I pay close attention to the proportions of every corridor instead of letting the commands do all the thinking for me. Many people assume that generating a maze is simply a matter of filling empty space with walls. But experienced level designers know that the width of the corridors can completely change the player's experience. Narrow passages naturally create tension because they limit visibility and make every corner feel unpredictable, while wider corridors provide moments where players can pause, look around, and decide where to go next. Good maze design constantly alternates between these different types of spaces, creating a natural rhythm that prevents the journey from becoming repetitive. This principle is used not only in hedge mazes, but also in museums, adventure parks, and even modern shopping centers, where architects intentionally vary the size of walkways to influence how people move through the environment. By controlling these proportions inside the statue, I make sure the maze feels carefully designed rather than randomly generated. Every section has its own purpose, whether it is meant to confuse, slow players down, or reward them with a brief sense of orientation before the next challenge begins. Another important part of the construction is ensuring that the maze feels balanced from beginning to end. One common mistake inexperienced builders make is placing most of the difficult intersections near the entrance, leaving the second half almost empty. Players quickly notice this pattern, and the challenge disappears long before they reach the exit. To avoid that problem, I spread the confusing intersections, dead ends, and longer corridors throughout the entire statue. Game designers often describe this as maintaining a consistent level of engagement. Every few turns, players should feel as though they are making progress while still wondering whether they have chosen the correct direction. If every wrong turn immediately ends in a dead end, the maze becomes predictable. If every corridor looks identical, it becomes frustrating instead of entertaining. By carefully balancing both situations, I create an experience where exploration remains enjoyable from the very first step until the final exit. This invisible structure is one of the reasons why some mazes stay memorable long after players have completed them. Eventually, the entire interior of the statue becomes filled with an intricate network of leafy corridors, transforming what was once an empty shell into a fully playable attraction. Looking at the finished layout from above reveals something fascinating. Despite containing hundreds of individual wall segments, the maze still follows the overall shape of the giant statue instead of ignoring it. This demonstrates an important principle in architecture known as working within existing constraints. Rather than forcing a design into an unsuitable space, architects adapt their ideas to the structure they already have. Historic castles, converted factories, and modern museums often preserve their original walls while completely changing the way people move inside them. My maze follows the same philosophy. The character-shaped shell determines the available space, while the corridors adapt to those boundaries. As a result, the statue is no longer just an impressive sculpture. It has become a fully functional building whose interior is just as carefully designed as its exterior. Before moving on to the next stage, I carefully inspect the entire maze one last time, making sure that every section connects exactly as intended. Large builds created with commands still require manual verification because even a tiny mistake can completely change the player's experience. A single misplaced opening might accidentally create a shortcut, while an extra wall could block the only correct route to the exit. This is very similar to the final inspection performed on real construction projects, where engineers and architects walk through completed buildings to ensure that everything functions according to the original plans. In game development, this process is known as playtesting. Designers often complete a level long before it is actually ready, then spend hours testing it from the perspective of a player. Although the maze now appears finished, this careful review is what turns it from a collection of corridors into a polished gameplay experience. By confirming that every intersection, dead end, and pathway works together as intended, I know the statue is finally ready for its visual transformation in the next stage. With the structure of the maze completely finished, I begin the most time-consuming transformation of the entire project. The leafy walls have served their purpose as a temporary framework, but now they must be replaced with blocks that match the colors of my outfit. At first glance, this might seem like a simple color swap, yet it is actually a complex design process that requires careful planning. Every section of the statue represents a different part of my clothing, meaning the maze walls cannot all become the same material. Some corridors belong inside my green hoodie, others pass through my face, my trousers, or my shoes. Instead of treating the maze as one continuous object, I have to think of it as dozens of separate regions that each require their own palette. Professional restoration artists often face similar challenges when replacing damaged sections of historic buildings, carefully matching every material so the repairs blend seamlessly with the original structure. In Minecraft, commands make the replacement much faster, but choosing exactly where each color begins and ends still depends entirely on the builder's planning and attention to detail. Replacing the leafy maze section by section requires far more precision than creating it in the first place. While the original leaf walls all shared the same texture and color, the finished version must perfectly follow the different parts of my character's appearance. If the boundary between two colors shifts by even a single block, the giant statue immediately begins to lose its recognizable shape. Pixel artists face exactly the same challenge when enlarging small images into massive murals. Every individual block represents a much larger area than it would on a normal Minecraft skin, so even the smallest mistake becomes visible from a considerable distance. Rather than replacing everything at once, I work through the statue methodically, completing one region before moving on to the next. This approach makes it much easier to keep the proportions accurate, while ensuring that every section blends naturally into the surrounding colors. Patience is often the difference between an average mega build and one that feels professionally planned. The most demanding part of the entire transformation is defining the borders where one color meets another. Commands are excellent at replacing large numbers of blocks, but they cannot automatically decide where a sleeve ends, where the face begins, or where the edge of a hoodie should curve. Those decisions require careful observation and manual adjustments. Architects and industrial designers often describe these transition zones as some of the most important parts of any project because they determine how clean and refined the finished work appears. In Minecraft, sharp and accurate borders make the statue look crisp from every viewing angle, while uneven transitions immediately catch the eye in a negative way. I constantly compare each section to the original character design, correcting small imperfections before moving forward. Although this stage takes a considerable amount of time, it is also where the statue truly begins to come alive. As the different colors gradually replace the temporary leaves, the maze stops looking like a construction project and starts becoming a giant, fully recognizable version of my Minecraft character, complete with an explorable labyrinth hidden inside. As more and more leafy corridors disappear beneath carefully selected building blocks, the maze slowly transforms from a temporary framework into a finished architectural structure. One of the greatest challenges at this stage is preserving the readability of both the statue and the maze simultaneously. From the outside, the build must clearly resemble my Minecraft character, while inside it still has to function as an enjoyable labyrinth. These two goals do not always complement each other. Sometimes a wall that works perfectly for gameplay cuts across the border between two colors, forcing me to adjust the replacement process without damaging the maze itself. At last, every section of the maze matches the colors of my Minecraft skin, completing the transformation from a simple network of leafy corridors into an enormous, interactive statue. What makes this build especially unique is that it successfully combines several completely different disciplines within a single project. From a distance, it functions as a giant pixel art sculpture that dominates the landscape. Up close, it becomes an architectural structure with carefully planned proportions and recognizable details. Once players step through the entrance, however, the experience changes again, turning into a fully playable maze that rewards observation, memory, and logical thinking. This layered design is one of the reasons large Minecraft projects remain memorable long after they are finished. Instead of serving only one purpose, the build constantly reveals something new depending on how people interact with it. A viewer flying overhead admires the sculpture, a builder appreciates the technical construction, and a player enjoys solving the labyrinth hidden inside. By combining art, architecture, and game design into a single creation, the giant Maizen statue becomes far more than a decorative landmark. It transforms into an interactive experience that encourages exploration from the very first glance to the moment the final exit is found. Great! My Maizen statue is ready. It's time for me to show it to the guys.
What?
Wow, JJ, you've got such a big and well-developed maze. You did such a good job.
Thank you guys. I am very glad that you liked my building. Friends, be sure to write in the comments whose building you liked the most. Well, I think it's time for us to finish.
Yes, JJ, you're right.
Subscribe and like. Bye-bye.